Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Thank you.
Moving on to item 4, consent agenda for April 8th, 2021 meeting. Chair will entertain a motion.
I move we pass the consent agenda as is.
With one exception.
Okay, we have a
It's a minor exception, but
motion and a second. Any adjustments that you have?
it's minor. But the pledge was led by Councilmember Dixon rather than Marsh.
Okay. Thank you, Francie. Any other additions or corrections to that? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
No opposed. Okay, we're gonna move on to item 5, call to the public for items on the agenda. I've got a whole stack, so bear with me, and we'll just, we'll go through this as expediently as we can. I'll take the top one that I've got. David Smith wishing to speak on the business license. And if I may caution you, we have a 5-minute timer, and if you would please keep your comments and concerns to the topic on business license.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to reiterate my stance on my opposition to the business license ordinance. As I expressed my concerns 2 weeks ago, I still haven't seen any information that would have answered some of my concerns. Even after asking questions, no one brought them up during the meeting. That meeting lasted about 15 minutes with nothing being expressed. I still would like to know, what are the consequences for not following the new regulations? Have we been given all the requirements, or will it be added to? Who's going to inspect our businesses? What will their credentials be? How will complaints be made? Sorry, it's close to my heart. What forms need to be filled out? What are the penalties for any code violations? How soon will they have to be in compliance? Why is one business being inspected, but those that are already in non-compliance with city ordinances not being inspected and required to comply? For example, how many commercial buildings are being lived in as a resident? Have these buildings been inspected after their conversion? I've been in one and it was in terrible condition, not fit to be lived in, and was being rented. There are many buildings not up to current code. Why haven't they been required to comply with city codes that already exist? Has anything been done about my other concerns about not having qualified inspectors? Has anyone looked into that to assure me they are qualified? Are my concerns worth contacting me to walk me through the process? Or does what the citizens want, no matter what, matter, and the council is going to just rubber stamp whatever's put in front of them? As a council, you represent me and business leaders and other citizens. Have you reached out to these other business leaders? When you vote, will you be voting with the voice of the business leaders or the voice of administration? I ask you to remember why you signed up to be a city councilman. If you're not going to listen to those whom you are supposed to serve, then who are you listening to? You were hired by the vote of the people to lead in the direction that is best for this city, not for the administration. We're asking you to fulfill your oath of office and represent the citizens of Holbrook. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Actually, no. I'll just go through it here. We have Gerald Hancock wishing to speak on business license and the election ordinance.
Are you doing both at the same time?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Since they're both on the agenda, then you can go ahead and cover both of them at the same time.
I just wanted to make sure I was okay. Us sheepers have a hard time. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council. I appreciate this. My first question is, why weren't the ordinance read in its entirety as per your charter? I'd like to ask, how much will this license generate in revenue for the city? How much will it cost the city to enforce this ordinance? Would it balance out? Is there any certified employee at this time to enforce it? How much would training cost if we do not have a certified person at this time? How long would it take to inspect every single business? What are the consequences if a business chooses not to participate? And the most important question, in my mind, what really is the purpose of this license? Is it the Blythe and Holbrook that you have no recourse to remedy without it? We struggle just with code enforcement for weeds. Not sure the city will be able to fulfill their part of a business license. Might need to weigh it all out. What might be good on paper might not be possible in person. Businesses have experienced many increases lately due to the city raising all their rates, and now they are looking towards another if this passes. I ask you, how much can they endure? Our local mom and pops have struggled through our hard times in our town. They're still trying to get past the pandemic hardship. Why add to their struggles? They are Holbrook. We wouldn't exist without them. You think the city itself has hard times. Think of the merchants that just can't raise a tax to make up the money you need, or they need. Businesses have competition they have to consider, so it isn't as easy for them to raise their rates. Some that sit in your seat say the license fee isn't that much. I guess that is in the eye of the beholder, and also is in the eye of the inspector, for which could be so much more than $25 fee, especially if they're not certified. On your elections ordinance, the city charter states the timing and the length of terms. The Supreme Court said when to hold a local election is a local concern, not a statewide matter. The Supreme Court also said that state election dates unconstitutionally tramples the autonomy of charter cities. Date April 14, 2021. The ordinance you are proposing, you are taking the citizens' vote away also. If you want to change it, let the citizens vote on it. Don't you think it is a conflict of interest for you, the council members, to be the only ones voting for the change in an ordinance, which will also reflect your extension? I understand that elections cost money to the city and other resources, but I think the timing of this change should have coincided with an actual voting event. For the city website today, April 22 at 2:30 p.m., I gotta ask this question. It already reflects the term extension, so it has already been discussed and decided on and voted for by the council members, I'm assuming. So why discuss and have a vote in front of the citizens tonight when you already voted? Aren't you supposed to read it in its entirety and discuss it prior to making decisions? That is one of the reasons the citizens are losing trust in the system. I'm not saying no one wants an extension, just the way you chose to do it. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Stinks. Ms. Cindy Tafoya, would you like to speak on the business license?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I was asked to share our concern on the proposed ordinance of the Holbrook business license. The current concern that we want to share tonight is regarding the timing. Due to the impact of the pandemic, businesses are beginning to have hope of getting back to normal, but they are not there yet. Several businesses, in order to stay in business, had to apply for Paycheck Protection Program and economic injury disaster loans to make ends meet. While they were forced to close their doors as non-essential services, reduce capacity, or change the way in which they deliver their service or goods. Even up to very recently, businesses were still given extended opportunity to apply for these loans or take a second loan as it was deemed necessary by our federal government, recognizing that small businesses continue to have much to overcome. We understand that even with the governor's order in late March changing requirements to recommendations, the transition has been slow for reasons deriving still from this pandemic, including, but not limited to, family-run businesses that have personal health issues themselves preventing them from opening and returning to work. Many struggling with being fully staffed. We recently heard there was a place that still has 18 positions to fill. business owners having to deal with fraudulent unemployment claims, and unfortunately some still dealing with COVID illness or exposure and learning how to mitigate those circumstances as they are opening up more and more to public. These are the things that business owners have never had to deal with, but are dealing with every day now. Imposing this new city requirement only seems to be adding another burden on our business owners at a time in which they are already dealing with so much. Per a roundtable discussion with businesses last month, which I was told each of you had received a copy of notes taken, we liked an idea brought up regarding a local business registry. It is a direction that could help better monitor the pulse of business growth and begin to offer support to new business interests and entrepreneurs in our community. Here is where we believe many of the concerning factors noted in the proposed ordinance can be introduced and aided with compliance resources. As a chamber, we ourselves could benefit greatly from a city business registry with our membership recruitment and help keep a more current local business listing for sharing and referrals. I thank you for this time.
Thank you. Next on my list is Mr. Randy Murph to speak on business license and the charter.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you. I expressed my concerns some time ago. Some of you were at the meeting at the Mesa and heard me with my concerns regarding the business license. I think tonight you have heard and you will hear some very strong points against such a license. And I apologize, I expected it to be attached to the agenda tonight. I tried to call the city 3 times today and the phone was disconnected for some reason. 3 times. So I don't have a copy to reflect on tonight. However, I would like to go off of memory. And based on my memory, the proposal for the business license would include making sure that people in town that provide services are registered contractors. I don't think that's fair, and I explained at the Mesa that would cause some people in Holbrook who can least afford it to have to hire licensed contractors from Sholo and Snowflake. As it is now, you can get your sewer cleaned out for $50. Try doing that with someone from Sholo or Snowflake. It would be several hundred. Some people in this community cannot afford that. The business license itself has a lot of glitches to it, and to make a point short, it's not needed. You guys aren't being transparent. There's no cost associated with this proposal that we've seen as a public. There are no consequences. What's going to happen if somebody refuses to pay for the business license because they don't want to participate in that fashion? All of these things proposed in that business license can be taken care of as they have been or should have been for quite some time. If a temporary vendor comes to town and they sell hot dogs or they sell carnival tickets, they can get a special use permit from the city. The city can in turn make sure that that business is legitimate, that they don't have any past bad history. The city can make sure that they're okay to be here. You don't need a business license to do these things. You guys are overreaching and you're imposing things on small businesses in Holbrook that will be a detriment rather than a benefit to the community. With that in mind, I would urge you to please consider a special use permit, a special use fee, special event tax, whatever, but leave us alone. We live here, we have brick and mortar buildings, we have taxes, we have insurance, we have employee fees, we have sales tax. We have enough to deal with. We also have to try to survive. The $25 isn't gonna kill us, but what are you guys proposing down the road? We don't know because you haven't included anything, especially in the agenda tonight, relative to this that would explain what your intentions are in the long term, who's gonna run it, who's gonna pay for it, what's it gonna cost. You guys have left all that out of the public view or the public knowledge. With that in mind, I appreciate your time. I choose at this time not to comment on the chart. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Says you cannot pass it before you know
Next, I have David Shumway wishing to speak on the business license and the election ordinance.
Good evening, council members and mayor. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today. When I heard that the city was once again thinking about doing a business license, I had concerns. And this has been proposed several times before unsuccessfully, and for good reason, for the same reasons that all of these people that have spoken so far have mentioned. There are no benefits that outweigh what it would do detrimentally to Holbrook. And there are some reasons that have been given why this is needed, and I can show why those are not valid. One reason is it's difficult to know what businesses are in town. If a business wants to be successful, they don't hide from their customers or from the city unless they're selling illegal drugs or contraband, in which case law enforcement agencies are working to shut them down. Also, if they have a city water utility account and the city already has their contact information in their database, the city could also access the Chamber of Commerce's database. And just like Cindy said, you know, maybe we need a business registry. I'm all for that, but a business license is a whole different beast. Even if every business in town is not a member of the chamber, it could be tracking them because they need that to give referrals and for people moving into town. Another excuse is Holbrook is only one of a few communities in Arizona that don't have business licensing. Well, that's like saying, well, everybody else is doing it, we should do it too, which we all know that's not a good excuse. You should show how it actually is gonna benefit the community before you do it. And that has not been demonstrated at all. Doing nothing would be better than doing something that isn't beneficial. Another excuse is we should limit roadside vendors and artisan wholesalers because they have an unfair advantage. Do they really pose a competitive threat? How much business is being lost? Quantify. Many roadside vendors are selling goods that are not regularly sold by local businesses, such as piñones and fresh roasted hatch green chilies. America's free market system of competition allows consumers to choose the best product at the best price, so why not let it continue? And if we need a special use thing or something like that, like Randy mentioned, I'm all for that. But you shouldn't penalize existing businesses that are employers here in this community. Another excuse is we need to verify proper zoning, building, and fire code compliance for proposed businesses. There's already an enforcement mechanism in place. The building inspector will verify this before a building permit is granted. Also, the city of Holbrook has a staff member assigned to do code enforcement. I don't know how much of that is actually being done. So let's get some of the other things done that need to be done before we put another bureaucratic layer on. Another excuse is we need to verify sales tax information. But considering that the Arizona Department of Revenue is already doing this, the city really has no business doing that. Let the state do the city sales tax. Another excuse is we need an open source check to make sure there's no pre-existing legal issues. The carnival at the fairgrounds during the COVID pandemic was an example given of this, but the county fair board allowed them to use the property. Why would the county fair board allow them to use it if they were not compliant? You know, I think that there are other enforcement mechanisms in place. If you don't support a business license, then you're not in favor of progress, as some would say. Well, progress should include improvement, not just change. If you can't demonstrate how this will improve anything, that's just another unnecessary layer of bureaucratic government growth and control. Calling it progressive doesn't make it so or beneficial. Another excuse, which has been mentioned already, we need to make sure contractors and tradesmen are properly licensed. The Arizona Registrar of Contractors already does this. If you have any concerns about a contractor, go to the Arizona Registrar of Contractors. And not all businesses have the same licensing requirements, but many do. My business is regulated and licensed by the state of Arizona. I am personally licensed. My business is licensed. I don't need another license. And if you want to look up my licensing information, it's available on the Arizona Department of Insurance website. The more you regulate businesses, the more difficult you make it to do business, thus discouraging rather than encouraging new business. So as you can see, I am very much opposed to a business license. I don't see that it would benefit the community of Holbrook at all. And on the other subject, as far as the extending the term, the city council and the mayor you were all elected to a specific term. And you should fill out that term, and if it needs to be changed, the election date, then that should be done for a future term. And if you extend your own term just by voting on it, can you imagine some other elected officials doing that, say like our state representatives, congressmen, governor, or the president of the United States saying, oh, we're gonna extend our term? That would be a big problem. And if you don't see the conflict of interest in that as well, then you're blind, to be blunt. So I hope you can see that this is not something that the city council should do, but this should be given to the citizens to vote on. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. Next, we have Mr. Phil Cobb to just talk about the election.
Hi guys, how you doing? Good to see the council, mayor, vice mayor, everybody. Democracy demands elections. Very simple. No more, no less. To extend your own terms without the vote of the people is what I consider breaking democracy and breaking the rules itself. I think what you folks need to do is just wait, as was said before by others before me, to just do it with the vote of the people. Do it at a future time. We do not need to have you extending your own term. This does not sound proper at all. And you can hear all the dissent that you're hearing from the folks. You can see the people here. And I really sincerely ask you to reconsider the ordinance that you're going to try to change the vote as is. Thanks. I'll make it short and sweet.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. Next up, we have Mr. Kent Darris to discuss the election.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I appreciate you guys letting me speak. The one thing I want to point out is the city charter. In the charter, it states how long your term is. You can take the charter and twist it. You can come up with other things, but it still states exactly what your term is in there. If you extend that term, you're breaking the charter. And I feel that if you break the charter, then there needs to be a forced election. So one way or another, there's gonna be an election. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Darris. Speaking on the same subject, Mr. Richard Peterson.
Good evening. I decided to show up tonight with my Phil Cobb hairdo. I consider it somewhat bad form to have left the council, then be on the sidelines, made comments, but I was compelled. And I have references for everything I have to say tonight if anybody's interested. And first, extending your limits is okay, and it's authorized by the Arizona Revised Statutes, but says if we comply with the state consolidated elections, then those terms can be extended or are extended. So that's the Arizona Revised Statutes. Since there's not enough time in 5 minutes to go over everything, I'll give you my bottom line first. That was my only good piece of good news. One, the election cycle provided in the Holbrook City Charter cannot be changed by the state or of Arizona or by ordinance of the Holbrook City Council. Two, the city's decision not to hold a primary election and to not even have a call for election that should have taken place back in October was without authority and a violation of both the charter and the laws of Arizona. Since the mandated primary election was not held, the term of office of 3 members of this council end next month. I don't believe that those positions can be filled, have not had election, can be filled by appointment of the council. Otherwise, every time election came around, you could cancel it and just appoint who you wanted. And fourth, in multiple ways, ordinance 21-03 is in violation of state law and the city charter. Now, let me tell you how I got to that. The state of Arizona tried to consolidate all elections some time back. In the case of City of Tucson versus the state of Arizona, which is held in the Arizona Court of Appeals, Division 2, and they issued their opinion on 18 August 2014, they said this, and I quote, "We conclude that state mandated election alignment when it conflicts with the city charters improperly intrudes on constitutional authority of the chartered cities. We therefore affirm the trial court's judgment that Title 16-204 does not preempt city charters that require odd-numbered years election dates. Our charter says this in section 2-03, the first election for the offices of mayor and city council shall be held in 1995 and every 2 years after that." This is the multiple of 2021. There had to be an election this year. In your notes for this meeting, it quotes 9-11, 9-10 with a novel interpretation of what that means. It does not mean that our elections have to line up with state elections. And we've gone through multiple elections and nobody has ever interpreted any other way than our elections have to be in accordance with the law. If you read section 9-01, it says that we will follow the state law unless it conflicts with the charter. We will follow state law unless it conflicts with the charter. Although the city didn't bring this up in the ordinance, it's instructive to see what happened in the latest one. And the state, making an end run, had tried to give them the authority to change elections of a certain voter count isn't met. In the state of Arizona versus the city of Tucson, decided by the Arizona Supreme Court a week ago, said we hold that Title 16-204-01 cannot apply to require a city to consolidate local elections with state and local elections if its charter provides otherwise. The state has no authority in our elections. The city council has no authority in our elections other than present it to the people for a possible change, which has to be done by a vote of the people of the city. Both the city charter and the Arizona Revised Statutes tell us how we can amend the charter, which just would require an amendment to the charter. The Arizona Revised Statutes is 9-283C. Has to be done by a vote of the people, cannot be done by ordinance. Again, there are several misstatements of fact and in the ordinance, and there's not enough time to go over those. If anybody would be interested, I could tell them later, talk to them later.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Next on my list would be Kathleen Smith.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and happy Holbrook month to everyone. So I'm here and I would like to also express my concern regarding the consolidation of elections. I understand there was a need for it being required by the state, but like Mr. Peterson said, as of April 14th in a 5-1 ruling, the Arizona Supreme Court voided this law as unconstitutional. And this stemmed from a 2018 state law requiring cities to select their mayors and council members to coincide with statewide elections. I do find it interesting though that this law was first made in 2018 and we are now just discussing it. But thankfully this delay ended in our favor as we no longer need this ordinance. If this is something the council feels it is important to change in the future, it can be discussed in a proper time frame with citizen input. I see no reason why our current terms needs to be changed to give everyone an extra year. And I also don't understand why on the City of Holbrook's website, it already has the new term dates posted. I'm not sure when it changed, but it has been posted for at least a month, and before even the first reading. Is this how we're gonna make policies now? We start implementing it and then we take it to vote? I'm also concerned about what happens now that we didn't have our 2021 elections in March, and it's too late to put our May election together, as we will be having 3 council members' seats expiring at the end of May. And I'm taking these dates from what I believe they were in the past, but like I mentioned earlier, I couldn't go to the city website to verify that because the dates have already been changed. And so, like Richard said, does the council plan on letting people vote, or are they going to try to appoint 3 seats? If it's an appointment that once again takes the votes away from the citizens, then that's unacceptable. If this council and its city administration keeps telling us they are doing this because we're not following the laws, then let's start with the process on how to do this. As an example, the charter clearly states all ordinances of the city shall have an effective date 30 days after the official date of the first publication in the official newspaper of the city. Under section 7.1 it states, all ordinances, except those necessary for the immediate preservation of the peace, health, or safety of the citizen, and resolutions having the effect of ordinances shall be published at least 1 week for 2 consecutive weeks in the official newspaper of the city before they become effective and operative. Then I've checked with our official newspaper, and according to their records, the last legal publication was done September 12, 2018, for a request for bids for a dry fairway mower. The paper said they're still double checking their records, but as far as they know, that was the last legal publication. So we need to go back. So how many ordinances have been passed since 2018 and have not been published? Because according to our own charter, they're not in effect, because the charter states they've got to be published for at least 2 consecutive weeks, and then 30 days after that, then they become in effect. So I'm concerned about how many more ordinances are sitting out there that we thought were in effect but technically aren't. So again, I feel like city administration and city council are not going through a process where there is a true discussion of ordinances being presented, and citizens are not getting a full story and explanation. Maybe these discussions are being held behind closed doors, but I would love to have citizens get a chance to hear these discussions. Maybe the concerns that a council member brings up in these closed meetings is a concern that we have. So better communication would be appreciated. So to summarize, I would like to see this ordinance not pass, or at the very least be postponed until we see what the repercussions are from this missed election. So let's figure out what our issues are first before we jump into anything else. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Smith. And last but not least, we have Mr. Kim Belknap wanting to speak on the marijuana ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. I only had one concern, section 666. The first part, there's a discussion about being age 21 in order to process marijuana and grow marijuana. I'd like to see the language cleaned up just a little bit, so it specifies you have to be at least 21 to do those actions. Wasn't clear to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Belknap. I'd like to thank all of you for your comments. Now we will move on to new business, item 6. Ordinance A 21-02, second reading, an ordinance regarding business licenses. Ordinance 2102, an ordinance of the city of Holbrook, Arizona regarding a business license. Whereas businesses operate within the city of Holbrook, and whereas the city has no mechanism for ensuring that they are operating in accordance with applicable laws, and whereas the city desires, it is the desire of the city mayor and council to protect the health and safety and welfare of the residents of the city of Holbrook. Therefore be it ordained by the mayor and the council of the city of Holbrook, section 1 Holbrook City Code, Article 2:1, transient merchant is repealed and is in its entirety and placed with Exhibit A. Section 2, the first year application fee will be $24, with the annual fee thereafter being $12. Future fees to be adjusted by resolution only. Section 3, the city manager is authorized to carry out the terms of this ordinance, including but not limited to developing an appropriate application form. Passed and adopted by the mayor, city council, city of Holbrook, this 22nd day of April, 2021. This time I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we pass ordinance 21-02.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. At this time, I'll open it up for discussion. I guess I'll start with
You
Vice
start with
Mayor.
me. Okay. I've said this before, this came up because I had taken some concerns to the city manager regarding unlicensed businesses, transient businesses, and not unlicensed, but transient businesses that came in, and that the complaint was made because of complaints I had received from a couple of business people, one several times. I attended the business roundtable the chamber hosted, and I learned a great deal from the business community, and I appreciated it, and I land on their side on this one. I think we need to get our house in order in some other areas first. I think that some of the questions that they had asked about were not things that we were considering doing. I don't think it was going to require that you're, I can't call Keith Gross or anybody else to clean up my sewer anymore. I'm gonna have to call Winslow Water Works or whoever. But even so, that takes away from, I don't want you to feel like we were gonna try to do that. But at the same time, I hear you about the fact that we need to get a few other things cleaned up first. And we may find, once we get everything taken care of, that this is not what we need. We need a registry. I don't know the answer to that, but I know that at this time, I'm not prepared to support it.
Thank you. Councilman Marshall.
Yeah. So I know I can speak for all of us up here in saying that we do appreciate and take part in the great businesses that are in town. We appreciate all that they do for us and all that we've heard tonight. This is how this works. I've said this before when I tried to make a mass ordinance, or resolution I should say. This is how this works, and I appreciate you all providing your feedback. I've also read the notes provided from the business meeting at the Mesa in March. I think that was a productive meeting. I appreciate the feedback. I think the notes were well written, and I didn't attend in person, but I feel like I could capture the primary concerns and themes of that meeting. And I've also listened to plenty of members of the community on this particular topic. I want to emphasize that this ordinance was not the idea of anyone in the City Hall. It is a proposal that came from business concerns and concerns from members of our community, to members of City Council. As in everything that comes to us, it has been reviewed by the City Attorney. I'm certainly sensitive to the context of COVID and the business recovery of that issue. I've been assured by the city manager that timelines for this implementation will be considered with grace and with understanding. First, this business license is not a tax, and it's not designed to go after any businesses or individuals in this town. I've seen the proposed license mischaracterized in many ways as something that is not, and some arguments against it, like citing blighted properties, aren't topical, and frankly, they distract from the intent of the license. The intent, as it is simple. To legitimize the businesses who operate and want to operate in the city of Holbrook, and not to be discriminatory towards temporary businesses. We already have a business license, but is not equitable for everyone trying to do business in town. This proposed business license is record keeping. It's not punishment. It's not penalization. It's not carte blanche for somebody to knock on your door and come inspect your property or your business. I do not think that the proposed fee is economically unfeasible. I find the required form simple and easy to understand. It was included in the electronic copy of the meeting notes, and I will read it. It requires the business name, the physical address, the mailing address, the name of the owner-operator, that person's address, the Arizona transaction privilege tax number, other required license number, the federal employee identification number, the type of business, and the description of business. That's it. It's 2/3 of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and that's all it is. With this, the city is able to ensure that all businesses are operating according to pre-existing applicable laws and create a business directory that will be useful for all kinds of partners and organizations for economic development. Businesses are able to protect their investments with this and gain a partner in the city. I see this as an increase in the level of partnership between the businesses and the city because each needs the other. It's also a message to potential future businesses that we are a legitimate community wanting to do legitimate, equitable business for the safety and well-being of our citizens and tourists. Again, I really appreciate your feedback and comments, and I'm looking forward to hearing the other perspectives of the council. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Wolford.
Now, first, I'd like to say yes, thank you. It's nice to see this turnout. See a lot of faces out there. Longtime families, being born and raised here. Business owners, several generations of business owners. And so far, even at the round table back in March, a lot of, all I've heard is why we're the city, the community's opposed to this business license. Truly say that the chamber here is where I've heard why they want a business license. But I think we need to focus on the businesses, the owners, and the community. We're here to work for you, represent you. This pandemic, that was one of the first questions that came to my mind when this was introduced to me, is why now with this pandemic? Because I see it every day in our businesses, how it's hurting on just the pandemic, keeping employees, cutting their occupancy in half, and yes, so it's a burden being placed on our community and our businesses right now. And there's a lot more to investigate on this. I know Councilman Marsh just read off the top portion of the city application. But we also have the bottom half, the official use half, right? The fees being paid, building department approval, planning and zoning approval, finance department approval. A lot of questions were brought up. Who's gonna be doing these? Who's gonna be signing this off? What are their certifications, qualifications for this? All right? So these are questions I think we need to ask before we make drastic decisions that are gonna affect you as a business owner. So, thank you for coming out and speaking up, and appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilman Wolford. Councilman Dixon.
Yes, and I want to thank you all for coming out too, and I thank you for the rest of the public that I've talked to and the business owners in our community. I think we have some good businesses here. I'd like to see more business come into Holbrook. And Adam, that was really good. Better than I think I could have written it myself and spoke myself. And I concur with everything that Councilman Marsh has stated in his statement. Some of the things that I've heard from everyone who spoke was who's going to enforce it, and some other concerns, which are valid concerns, but it's not. Those are things that are not necessarily to be put in an ordinance. These are things that are established by whatever policies are within the city, and we don't vote on who the city manager assigns to do certain inspections. That's his job to do. We don't tell him how to do that. Then there's a question about why wasn't the ordinance read in its entirety. We can read ordinances by heading only, and sometimes we choose to do that. Again, who will inspect, how will it be enforced? Those are things that are not necessarily something that's placed in the ordinance. So I of course am in support of this, and as a business owner, switching gears to being a business owner, I don't see an issue. This is a rhetorical question, but how many of you could tell us how many restaurants are in Holbrook? How many automotive repair shops are in Holbrook? Where are they? Are they up to code? How many motels, hotels do we have in Holbrook? I'm thinking that not even the Chamber of Commerce could tell us those things. There are, my understanding, businesses that are operating as businesses that are not zoned in the particular area that they are. With a business license, that would help us have some legal teeth to be able to enforce zoning or laws. And so, where do we start? So and this is another rhetorical question. So if we had somebody that's trained to enforce these, that is trained to inspect the whatever issue it is for a business, it sounds like you guys are okay with that. But the other thing is a registry. Okay? The registry, what if I'm a business looking to come to Holbrook, and I ask the questions, rhetorical questions that I just asked, how many of such and such business do you have? And City Hall says, I don't know. With a business license, we know exactly what businesses are in Holbrook and which businesses are complying with whatever codes, whatever planning and zoning ordinances. So that's about all I have to say about that, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Nielsen.
I am so glad that all of you came and expressed your opinions today. I sure understand both sides of the issue. The ones that Councilman Marsh iterated so well, and also the libertarian side of the issue of that less government is best government and that things tend to go out of control. And I am so thankful that Ms. Tafoya brought up the business registry, and I think maybe that this isn't the right time for this, and we should start with the business registry. I think we should work with concerned businesses to make sure that it's something that it's more palatable to everyone. Thank you.
Councilman Kester.
Yes. Am I too loud or?
Just right.
No,
Anyway,
we'll get you.
I would like to thank all the people that came and voiced their opinion. I would like to see more of them come every meeting. You always can have your 3 minutes to speak on any subject, so let's come back and get more crowds. I'd appreciate it, and that's all I have to say for now.
Thank you, Councilman Kester. I'm going to kind of bring up what Francie brought up, and we wouldn't even be addressing this issue right now had it not been for some concerned business owners in this town that brought it to her attention, in which she took it to the city manager. And I appreciate all of your guys' opinion, but we have to understand that on the other side, there are other business owners that maybe feel totally opposite. I like Adam's explanation.
Where are they? Why aren't they here?
Well, it's a good question. But I think we need to move in a direction that, and like Adam said, this is not a penalty or a punishment to anybody. We've had inspections before. We've had Ms. Reyes, who was doing all the inspections, and for many years, there was never a question about whether she was certified.
She wasn't.
And now all of a sudden, it's an issue. So,
Now all of a sudden the business license is an issue?
It was a concern
could
then.
be. So, anyway, I have nothing else to say on that, so being so, we have a motion and a second on the floor at this point in time. We will take a vote. The vote will be done by roll call vote only.
Councilman Dixon,
Aye.
Councilman Kester,
Nay.
nay. Councilman Marsh,
Aye.
Councilman Nielsen,
Nay.
Vice Mayor Payne,
Nay.
Councilman Wolford,
Nay.
Councilman Young.
Aye.
So the motion does not pass.
Okay. Ordinance number 2102 did not pass, it has been struck down. Okay. Now we will move on to.
I'd like to make just one comment about that. This is the process. And thank you guys.
That's how it works.
Thank you, this is
how it works.
Yeah, this is our constitutional republic. Thank you.
People have the opportunity to come speak their voice, and that's why we have an open meeting every time. You know, you have the opportunity to come in and speak your voice.
And I want to see you all in 2 weeks at the next council meeting, all of you.
Okay, moving on to item 6, new business B. And this is second reading on an ordinance regarding consolidated elections. Excuse me. Ordinance 2103, an ordinance of the city of Holbrook, Arizona regarding consolidated elections. Whereas the city of Holbrook seeks to participate in consolidated elections to increase voter participation as set forth by the state of Arizona. Whereas Resolution 201, the city of Holbrook has signed an agreement with Navajo County to participate in consolidated elections, and whereas the city of Holbrook election cycle established in the charter is in conflict with state of Arizona consolidated election cycle, and whereas per ARS 16204 and ARS 1620401, the consolidated election date set by the state of Arizona preempts the city charter. Whereas it is the desire of the mayor and the city council to eliminate this conflict. Now therefore be it ordained by the mayor and the council of the city of Holbrook, Section 1, Holbrook City Code, Article 1, 2, Mayor Council is amended by adding Exhibit A, Section 2, the manager has the authority to carry out the terms of this ordinance, passed and adopted by the mayor of the city of Holbrook this 22nd day of April. Okay, Chair will entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt ordinance 21-03.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. At this time, we'll bring it up for discussion. I would like to start the discussion at this time. And what really bothers me, folks, and I'm glad there's a crowd here. I'm really glad there's a crowd here. Because the documentations we have in our city charter conflict with each other. Mr. Peterson kind of brought it up, but Section 2-03, elections, the first election of the mayor and the members of the council in the terms shall be held in 1995 and every 2 years thereafter. Okay? And the city charter was established and voted on by the people in 2094. Or 1994, excuse me. And then another section of the charter, which says, Section 9-10, timely holding of a primary election. Primary elections shall be held on dates that conform to state and federal law. I didn't hear any of you refer to ARS Title 16-211, which is general elections. And this is not anything to do with the 16204 or 16204, the consolidation portion. What this is what the state uses as their law for state elections. Okay, and it does say on here on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November, every even numbered year, the general election shall be held for elected representatives. We have a document within our charter that says we must conform to state law. This is state law, this is our charter. It's conflicting.
Not anymore.
Mr. Peterson?
the state law specifically views charter cities as a separate entity than other cities or counties.
If, and in that says, if there is a conflict with the charter,
Then you go to the city charter.
okay? So we're going to the city charter. We have it written in our charter that the state said we have to conform to.
Read 9-02 in that charter.
I'm sorry?
9-02 or .03.
Provisions of law of the state, of this state relating to and governing the nomination of elected officials and conduct of elected officials. Every provision of said law with the amendments thereto shall apply to, or shall apply and shall govern the nomination of elected officials and conduct of elections, except as otherwise provided in this charter or ordinance adopted by this charter. Okay, I do understand that, but we have two conflicting ordinances. We have two conflicting pieces of legislation in our charter.
Then you need to
So
fix
which one, so which one do we follow, guys? You know, that's what I'm saying, you know,
Our city.
what I'm saying is, you know, this ordinance right here has absolutely nothing to do with extending any of our seats up here. I don't think there's one of us that jumped up and down and said, oh, I wanna be there for another year. I wanna be there for another year. You know, I didn't, I know I didn't, but in order to consolidate an election, and the reason the state originally wanted to do it, and the reason I feel it's a good idea, is for one thing, we already have an agreement with the county that they're gonna cover the cost of it and they're gonna pay for it. In the odd years, you folks as taxpayers are the ones that foot the bill for the off elections.
We'll pay for it.
That's part of democracy.
And then participation. One of their biggest things is you're gonna have a lot better participation if you have all of the elections consolidated. You have a lot more people. That was evident this year. So I'm in favor of consolidating an election. It has absolutely nothing to do with my term on the council, but I think we need a lot of clarification as far as the way our charter is written. Vice Mayor Payne.
When this started out, I thought, well, we have to follow state law. And I didn't think a whole lot more about it, because even if that were true, we still would need some word from the people on it to, I don't know if you can just strike out portions of the charter. I don't believe you can.
Not without a vote.
You have to
can't
have a
add
vote
or-
of the people.
You can't add or.
Tucson did this past fall. They took it to the people to ask them to change to the accepted federal and state dates. It was rejected. And that's why Tucson went ahead and called their election and went ahead with it. I didn't know what Tucson was doing. Sometimes I have a little trouble with what Holbrook's doing. So, anyway, we still should have done something at that point to, if we were gonna change, which, as a practical matter, I think having the even numbered years is a good thing for us, because it will improve voter turnout. But on a personal level, I was against it because it extended my term for a year and a half. And I tried to put that aside and say, it doesn't matter what my personal feeling is, it's the law, we have to do it. Since the Tucson, since the state filed with the Supreme Court asking them to make Tucson come into line, I just received a copy of that last night, and I've read it, And I see that, because if you wanna look at the one, it says quite clearly, we have odd number year elections. That means under the Supreme Court ruling, we can stick with those. So, that would be great, but we've missed that mark as far as having a March primary and a May general. And this is not a reason to be for it, but we are gonna have to figure out how to get out of this if we don't do it. We're going to have to, are we having elections later? Do we not have 3 members of the council for the 4 months that it takes to get an election going, plus 2 weeks for putting it on the agenda? I don't know the answers to this, but I can no longer support this either. So.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilman Dixon?
Mayor, I think you said it quite well, and there are things lined out in statute and in our charter that I think, I don't think there's any question about it. It says in our charter that we will conform to state and federal election laws. Know how much more clear it gets for that. And what Tucson did, and the Supreme Court in how they ruled for Tucson, that's Tucson, we're Holbrook. We need to follow what our charter says, and also the statute under ARS 16204.02, the latter part of the first paragraph, A, says the terms of office for elected officials of the political subdivision shall be lengthened at time of consolidation to align with the consolidated election dates. You know, when we go odd years and align our elections with state and county elections, then the mayor is right. We save money as a community, and we get better voter turnout. As far as the money is concerned, you know, the city has money. They can find it somewhere. But as far as voter turnout, I want the most voter turnout that we can get. And the way we're doing our election cycles now, I don't think we get that. And when we have our elections aligned with state and federal elections, I think we will get that voter turnout. And that's what's important to me. I don't care. I do care about the finances, but not as much as I care about voter turnout. Thank you.
Councilman Marsh?
Practically, I don't have anything additional to add about the beneficial reasons to consolidate elections with respect to voter turnout and cost effectiveness. I also, again, want to circle back and remind everybody that we are not politicians. We are elected members of the very community that we all find ourselves in, and we're wading through this just as much as you all are. We've had, I know I've had conversations with the city manager, who's had conversations extensively about this very topic with our attorney, and again, everything that comes through ordinance or resolution has come through our attorney. We're not making this up out of thin air, and in fact, the state statute does recognize this very reality as a possibility. It's unfortunate, it's a pain in the butt, and I want to reframe the reality that we're finding ourselves in, the decision that we're balancing here, that the extending terms this one time is the result, it's not the reason. It's the result of the situation that we're finding ourselves in, trying to reconcile a charter that says two things at once with a state statute that tells us what we're supposed to be doing. With that, I don't have anything to add. Sorry for.
Thank you. Councilman Nielsen?
Well, I agree with Francie Payne. We thought we were following the law. The state law said that we're gonna do this. Court case at Tucson happened. Because we thought we were following the law, we did not take provisions to do that. So now we find ourselves in a rock and a hard place. I don't think anybody here wants their term extended. if you don't feel like we're doing a good job, you can always recall us. But I think that following this statute the way it's written is the best course of action at this time for us.
Thank you.
And our attorney says it's defensible.
Yes.
And it's,
Okay, Councilman Kester.
Okay, if our charter says that we should serve a 4-year term or a 2-year term, in my opinion, that's what we should serve. The state is stepping in and trying to change our charter or whatever, and I think we should go by our charter. So we should probably have an election when it's supposed to be, and our time is up, our time is up. If we want to run again, we want to run again. Personally, I'm not running again. I'm going to be 80 years old next year. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
could I add one thing to what I said before?
Yes, sir.
And that is that we need to clean this up. We need to clean the charter up in an upcoming election. That needs to be a priority for us, so that it's clear and it's not contradictory. Thank you.
Councilman Wolford.
Yeah, and kind of following up on what was just said is, yeah, we've got to figure out our charter first, because we are under a charter, all right? There are over 200 cities and towns in the state of Arizona. 91 of them are charter cities and towns, all right? 3 of the largest cities in the state are charter cities: Phoenix, Flagstaff, Tucson, okay? So, I understand where they're saying, hey, you know, 9-01 or 9-10 and 9-11 say we shall comply with state and federal election laws. Well, we are, because we abide by the laws for elections, right? It doesn't specifically say what dates we have to hold our elections, and our charter specifically tells us that in 1994, when it was established, that 1995 was the beginning of this election cycle, 1997, and every 2 years thereafter, right? Now, I don't think there's any 2-year terms here. It's half the council these 2 years and the other half the other 2 years. So everybody's on a 4-year cycle. My biggest concern is am I legit? I just might not be. We have to get our charter in line. It's been modified, and that's evident by the website. The term's been extended to December. Well, where is the resolution or the ordinance that authorized that? All right? Because I haven't found it, and I've looked. I've looked really hard these last 2 weeks. I ran across this resolution that was done 2001, which is done in January of 2000 between the city of Holbrook and Navajo County. And this resolution basically said that Navajo County is going to provide everything the city of Holbrook needs to run an election. There's no date specified. There is no alignment with the Navajo County elections or the state election or the government election. And that's when the alignment should have taken place, when that resolution was done. Because what should have been in that resolution, all right, but we're not holding our elections at the same time you are, Navajo County. We're holding ours in odd years, 2021. And you just signed up to say you're gonna pay for this extra election the city of Holbrook's gonna do. You know, so according to the charter, and according to that resolution between the county and the city, we should have held an election in March of this year. Primary election in March of this year, and then the general election in May of this year. So, yeah, I might be out of here soon. But on that note, so Let me get my train of thought here, I was packing my bags already. So, when this resolution was done in January, there was no reason why we couldn't amended our charter to have a 2020 election along with the state and federal, right? I'm pro alignment with state and general elections, but there's some cons to that as well. The last 3 major elections have been total chaos. The rhetoric, the propaganda, people just shut it off. Well, having our election at a different time, our people can vote on our local community here and not be distracted of what's going on there in the state capitol or Washington, D.C. So that's a pro for keeping this separate. And maybe that was the intention in 1994 when they established this different date, you know? So I'd like to think that they were very intelligent when they made that decision, but I haven't found anything to say why they did it and why it's taken us over 25 years to figure out it was wrong. Right? So I think we need to get our charter in order first before we even try to address this issue with alignment.
Thank you, Mr. Wolford. And just clarification, where you stated on section, in the charter 10-9, the primary election shall be held on dates to conform with, and as he mentioned, we do conform with state law, but the section primarily is headed time of holding the election. Yes, we comply with the state as far as our elections and what we're doing, but the section itself is the time of holding the election. And it states in there that the election shall be held on dates that conform to state and federal law. So,
Mayor,
yes, sir.
I'd like to comment to, with what Councilman Wolford said if we, should have done it back then. City elections distracted by state and federal elections. It took us 25 years to address this. Does that mean we should not address it now because we didn't, or councils back then didn't address it 25 years ago? Well, here we are with the ability and the necessity to address it now. All those councils back then and over the past 25 years apparently didn't address it. Here we are addressing it.
Okay, so if we address this now, so what this means is that sticking to our charter, because there has been no resolution or ordinance changing our election dates. So our official election dates are still March and May. So if we change this now, and what, let me see how to word this. All right, so say we line up with this August and November, the state and federal, right? Well, even now, if we were to hold this election in March and May, right now, we'd have to run it, publicize it for 2 weeks, all right, that this election was done, all right? And then 30 days from the day that it is approved, it goes into effect, which would bring it into December. Well, according to state or federal statute, state statute with election, you have 7 days after an election is held to confirm it and then activate who's ever elected. So that would put us beyond the authorized election date, you know? See what I mean? It would put us into December when, November would have to be the actual election. So we can't comply with, we've got to fix our charter and say, these are the dates, or we're gonna conform to that. But we just can't go and modify our terms without What kind of resolution?
Actually, according to state law, we can.
We're not changing the charter, we're not modifying the charter, we're not doing that at all. We're abiding by the charter. It says general elections shall, 9.11, general elections shall be held on dates that conform to state and federal law. And then what we've just read, 16-204- or .202, says that those, for consolidation to align with consolidated election dates, that the terms will be extended. It's in our charter, it's in the law, so we are following it.
This will not, by doing this consolidation, the only thing it's going to do is extend our terms 1 year so we can align with that. It doesn't change the fact that the mayor still has a 4-year term, each council member still has a 4-year term. It doesn't change that. But we're in a position right now, because of the state put this consolidation stuff out, I believe in 2014.
Correct, and it was
Okay.
overruled by the state
And it's
supreme.
been followed and followed, okay, and according to what it was saying is we had to conform with this all the way up until we get a ruling from the Supreme Court last week, 2 weeks ago?
No, it was first ruled in 2018, and they said no. And then they tried to reword it and send it back to the Supreme Court, or the state Supreme Court, and then it came back last week and said, like we told you before, it's no. You do not have the power to tell Charter City what dates they can do their elections on.
If it states it.
It specifically states that.
Unless your ordinance states something different. Understand? So, like I say, I'm not interested in extending my term, but I want to see us get this mess fixed. I mean, our city charter is a disaster, folks.
That's another 2 years.
You know, and it's, the extension of any of our positions is not gonna extend past 2 years. It's only, I think the longest one is 14 months. But I've already been threatened by my wife with divorce if I run again. Because according to many people, I have a brand new boat, and the reason I'm on here and collecting that $177 a month is to get rich and build up my retirement. Unfortunately, that's not why I'm here. I'm a long-term resident. I've been here just as long, if not longer, than most of you in this room. My family's own businesses here. I own a business here. I own many properties here. I have a house here. I got on the city council because I love the people of this community. And what I wanna see is, I wanna see us fix this garbage. Something needs to be done. It needs to be straightened out to where there's no conflicts in there, where we have a good viable document that when we open it up or an issue comes up, we can go straight to it and it's gonna tell us how to do things. Unfortunately, we don't have that right now. If we do vote yes on this ordinance, there will be an election next year. And my suggestion then is that we get with our attorney and we rectify the problems that are in this ordinance or in this charter, and that way it has to go to a vote of the citizens. If not, then we need to take it to a vote of the citizens right now.
So I think we should do that.
At the cost of,
Okay.
at the cost of.
Sounds good.
One more.
Yes.
I'm looking at the Arizona Supreme Court decision in section 3, the last part of the last sentence of section 3. If off-cycle elections are consolidated with on-cycle election dates, incumbent officials' terms in office are lengthened to align accordingly. And this is ARS 16-204.02, which we just read. Thank you.
Any other comments? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second on the floor. We will vote on this by roll call vote.
Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
Councilmember Kester.
Nay.
Nay. Councilmember Marsh,
Aye.
Councilmember Nielsen,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Payne,
Nay?
Councilmember Wolford,
Nay.
Mayor Young.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Motion passes 4-3.
4-3.
Okay, moving on to new business, item C, ordinance 2104, second reading, an ordinance regarding medical marijuana, or recreational marijuana, excuse me. Ordinance 2104, an ordinance of the mayor and the city council of the city of Holbrook regulating recreational marijuana. Whereas marijuana contains THC, which remains on Schedule 1 of the Controlled Substance Act pursuant to 21 U.S.C. 811, and any possession and use in violation of federal law pursuant to 21 U.S.C. 841. And whereas the Arizona Medical Marijuana Act, Arizona Revised Statute 362801, and Title IX, Chapter 17 of the Arizona Administrative Code allow the establishment and operation of a nonprofit medical marijuana dispensary according to prescribed statutory regulatory process. Whereas the statewide ballot measure I-23-2020, known as Smart and Safe Arizona Act, certified as Proposition 207 and placed on the November 3rd, 2020 general election ballot, and contained provisions authorizing possession, consumption, purchase, processing, manufacturing, and transporting of marijuana for an individual is at least 21 years of age. Authorizing possession, transport, cultivation, and processing of marijuana plants in a primary residence by adults over 21 years or older. Allow a nonprofit medical marijuana dispensary or other non-dispensary applications or applicant to apply to the Department of Health to become a licensed marijuana establishment, authorized to engage in the retail property, cultivation, and manufacturing of marijuana, and allowing the department and other entities designated by the department to become a marijuana testing facility to test the potency of marijuana and detect the harmful contaminants. And whereas Proposition 207 authorizes marijuana establishments to use chemical extraction and chemical synthesis, including butane and flammable gases, to extract marijuana concentrate, which pose a threat to the health and safety of and security of the community, and increase the responsibility of law enforcement and other departments to respond to violations of state, local laws, including buildings, electrical and fire code. And whereas the mayor and the city council of the city of Holbrook seek to protect the health and safety and welfare by enacting reasonable zoning regulations to limit the number of marijuana establishments and or marijuana testing facilities. Therefore, be ordered by the mayor and the council of the city of Holbrook, Section 1, Holbrook City Code, as amended by adding Attachment A, Section 2, city manager is authorized to carry out the terms of the ordinance, passed and adopted by the mayor and city council of the city of Holbrook this 22nd day of April 2021. Okay. This time, Chair will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve ordinance 2104, an ordinance of the mayor and council regulating recreational marijuana.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. We'll open this up for comments and questions. I'll start with Vice Mayor Payne.
I believe that this ordinance is, as it states on the action form with the request to have this on the agenda, that this ordinance is based on the ordinance, the model ordinance provided by the Arizona League of Cities and Towns, their in-house attorney. It was modified some for the formatting, but so that it would fit into the Holbrook City Code easier. That's the only formatting. This, I have checked around, and it seems to be that most communities have gone ahead and let the league do the legwork on it. And this seems to be the easiest way for us to allow people to, the people approved recreational marijuana, this will allow us to have it, and so I have no problem with it.
Thank you. Councilman Marsh.
I request to speak last.
Councilman Dixon.
I'd like to hook up to the TV just to show a couple things, please.
Might do the rest and then do him.
Yeah, let's go ahead and, Councilman Nelson, we'll go ahead and do you, would you wanna hook up while he's giving his, Councilman Nelson?
I think marijuana is a very dangerous drug, especially as it's refined. It's like coca. The coca plant in South America, people chew it. But when you refine it down to cocaine, it kills people. I don't wanna live in a community where my children and grandchildren can buy gummies or have access to gummies that could potentially addict them and cause them harm. And so, I agree that it's a very well-written document, that because of the way I feel about marijuana personally and how it's affected certain people in my life, I'm against it.
Councilman Wolford.
I think it's a good place to start, because we know it's here, it's coming, and we need to move fast so we can start collecting some revenue off of it. But, reading through, for instance, 6-6-5 shall be unlawful for a person to operate marijuana establishment at any location within the city without obtaining license from the city. Right? There's a few things. The operating hours of these establishments.
That's by state law.
Right. As long as we're in compliance with the state law and stuff, but it looks like there's been a few things added possibly to this that, as a city business owner, if I were to have one of these, I'd want more input on it, you know, on regulating. I'm just not sure who's regulating this. Is it this League of City council members? Or
The state is regulated by the Arizona
but
State
there's some
Department of Health.
specific things here that look like more pertinent to, like, Councilman just addressed, you know, yes, he's against it, he knows the bad things that happen to it, but that's neither here nor there because it's legal. Recreational marijuana is legal, and that's how we have to address this. But I am for getting something on the books so we can start figuring out how to regulate it correctly within our city limits.
Thank you. And I'll just kind of step in a little bit on that and just reiterate what the Vice Mayor said, that the ordinance that we see that we have in front of us is a model ordinance from the League of Cities and Towns. I didn't vote in the election for legalizing marijuana, but the mass of the voters did, and they passed it. It's not my position to sit here as a council member and say, I don't like the way you guys voted, I'm not gonna accept it. That's not how government works. The ordinance basically gives the city the opportunity to align, just like it does with the liquor licenses. Our ordinance in there basically says where you can have a liquor establishment, where you can't, and what the guidelines are with that. That's basically what this is. Unfortunately, we can't keep it from coming into town. If a business comes into town and they're in the proper zoning and they wanna build a facility, how can we tell them no? We already have, 3 grow facilities in the city already? be kind of hypocritical of us, or hypocritical of us to tell them no. So, I have nothing else. Councilman Kester.
I have nothing to say.
Thank you. He's gonna hook up, so can you?
I'll go ahead.
Hold on just a sec. Ted, do I need to come down there?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I don't think the cord's long enough to go up there, so come down here.
Let me first say, Councilman Nielsen, I'm not aware of your background with this particular issue, and I'm sorry to hear it. But I want to sort of parallel what the mayor said, and when it comes to the moral or ethical arguments for or against partaking in recreational marijuana, the voters of the state voted in November of 2020, in my eyes. These are, in many cases, professional businesses who want to come to Holbrook wanting to cultivate or sell recreational marijuana, should they be allowed to do so by this state mandated ordinance, because they are coming to participate in the business community of our city. They come offering jobs, they come offering tax revenues, just like the medical facilities that already exist and already operate as business partners in our community. The state is the one regulating everything with respect to recreational marijuana, as it already does medicinal marijuana and alcohol and tobacco and firearms. It won't be the Wild West of marijuana. This is, again, not something that we're trying to make up as we go. There is a lot of precedent from a lot of places and a lot of states, and this is something that I think is I just lost my train of thought. It's a opportunity for our community, and I'm supportive. Thank you.
You'll have to put your screen on. I believe it's on. I didn't turn it on.
It did power it off, Ted.
It did power off?
Yeah. It's on here.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
Councilman Dixon.
Thank you, Mayor. I know the voters passed this, the voters of the state of Arizona. The voters of Navajo County voted no on Prop 207, 26,179 to 23,827 vote of yes. So, Navajo County doesn't want it. Antelope Precinct, which is Holbrook, Woodruff, and Josady, I think, they voted against it too. So this is, sorry. Turn up, Ted.
How's this gonna go?
No, Ma. I called him this morning. Marijuana can make nothing happen to you, too. Close windows for me, okay?
That's a PSA from the 80s, I think, back when we started this whole marijuana thing. One more here. Please bear with me.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're here, Earl.
Young people from all walks of life.
What happened?
So I'm sorry, the internet is not cooperating. Ted, is the city's internet on?
Yes.
So when I first got on council, I went to the league, the Arizona League for Cities and Towns, and one of the breakout sessions that I attended was a person from the health department in Colorado who basically said, Arizona, don't go the way of Colorado when it concerns marijuana. And I know that we have medical here, And now we have recreational, all those things are stepping stones. And we don't wanna go the way of Washington State where pretty much everything is legal. If you get caught with a small amount of heroin, it's okay. That's totally legal. So what I'm providing here is some graphs from the state of Colorado on their marijuana. And I know I'm probably just wasting some time here because the point is moot. But if you look at some of the chart 3 or figure 3 right here, annual exposure reason compared between all children and adult marijuana case exposures, Colorado 2000 to 2019. The spike, this part of the chart on the left here, this is a spike in exposed people from 0 to 19 years of age. 108 unintentional marijuana case exposures. And this is what we're bringing, and I know that the election was last November, but this is what we're bringing to Arizona, and this is what we're bringing to our community, is more exposures, more children being exposed. This is not the marijuana that you've seen when you all were growing up, when we were growing up. They do gummy bears, they do chocolates, they do all these things that, who's attracted to those things? Children. And you know, it's beyond me that that people who will be using these products, they're gonna leave these things out on the counter. And a child will be exposed to these things. Look these things up on Colorado's website, marijuanahealthinfo.colorado.gov. You can do some searching there. I just wanted to present this because I want people to know what we're getting into. And I understand that we don't have any say over it anymore. But I would like to, if there is any possibility, if anyone knows that we can make Holbrook dry, like Joseph City is dry for alcohol, they don't have to sell it. They don't have to have businesses come in and sell alcohol, even though it's legal in the state of Arizona and all of America. I would just like to see if there's something that we can do to make Holbrook dry when it comes to marijuana. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman.
Can I say something? Councilman, it'd be nice if you'd cite your source.
I just did. That website.
Huh?
Yeah.
I didn't hear it.
Oh, it was the marijuanahealthinfo.colorado.gov and then /health-data/poison-center-data.
Yeah, get it from the left.
I can write that down for you.
Let's get it from the left. Okay, moving on. Do you have any other comments? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second on ordinance number 21-04 for recreational marijuana. At this time, we'll take a roll call vote.
Okay, Councilmember Dixon,
Nay.
Councilmember Kester,
Aye.
Councilmember Marsh,
Aye.
Councilmember Nielsen,
Nay.
Vice Mayor Payne,
Aye.
Councilmember Wolford,
Aye.
Mayor Young.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, the last one under new business. Item D, ordinance 21-05, second reading on an ordinance regarding the sale of real property. Let's see. Ordinance 2105, an ordinance to the city of Holbrook regarding sale of real property, namely parcel number 109-19-108. Whereas City Council approved the acquisition of the parcel 109-19-108 from Mary F. Payne on January 27th, 2017, excuse me. And whereas the adjacent property owner would like to purchase the property, and whereas Holbrook City Charter Section 7-05 requires an ordinance to sell property. therefore be it ordained by the mayor and the council of the city of Holbrook, Section 1, property fully described in attachment Exhibit A will be sold to Josh McDermott. Section 2, the manager has the authority to effectively sell this property. Passed and adopted by the mayor and the city council, the city of Holbrook, this 22nd day of April, 2021. Okay, Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Have any comments or questions on this item? Hearing none, other than, I will just put out there that, this piece of property was let out to bid. The, minimum bid price for it, was set at $3,214 is what the appraisal price came into us. The bid, we had two bidders, one of them subsequently dropped out. Joshua McDermott put in a bid of $3,300. Just for clarification to the public. Okay, I've got a motion and a second, no discussion, we will have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
Councilmember Kester,
Aye.
Councilmember Marsh,
Aye.
Councilmember Nielsen,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Payne,
Aye.
Councilmember Wolford,
Aye.
Mayor Young.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, we will move on to item 7, call to the public for items not on the agenda. At this time, we do have one, Kim Belknap. His discussion is on the golf course.
Thank you, council members, mayor. I have some information to, I hope will help you make good decisions about funding the golf course. The city manager and I had a short discussion this morning. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at this information. This information is for the month of March, which you remember it snowed a couple days. So this information is essentially money collected in 25 days. First column is the date, second column is money collected at the clubhouse. This is not money collected here at the city. Third column is money collected strictly on the golf carts, rental. Bottom line, $6,800 is collected and delivered to the city. My best guess, $4,000 of that would not have been seen by the city. Of that $6,800, I took out cart shed rental fees, and we took out membership renewals. So the $4,000 just reflects golf cart rentals and golf cart or green fees to play golf. Anyway, bottom line, I don't know how you made your decision to justify a 20-hour part-time person in the clubhouse, but I would hope that this information will help you make a decision to put more staff in there. Also, there's a list of recommendations. The second page is a proposal to build another cart shed. There's a number of golfers. I've got a list of names, 13 names. Oh wait, make that 14 names. 14 names of people who have golf carts that want to have a rental shed out at the golf cart. 7 of these people currently have trailers that they bring their golf carts in. The road's a little rough. One guy's cart, or his trailer broke down, Corey Jansen. He had to go to Tractor Supply and have them re-weld it. Anyway, this chart shows your revenue. It's gonna cost about $7,000 to build another 12 carts. Paybacks in 3 years. And that 3-year payback is based on the Holbrook July to June financial year. So, that's it. It's been a long night. I've asked to be on the agenda next month so we can discuss this more fully. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Belknap. Okay, we have any other calls for items not on the agenda.
Is that for today? Yeah, I just got one of it. Oops, sorry.
Cindy Tafoya, Gateway Community Petrified Forest National Park Part 2.
Yes, I just wanted to announce that we are having a part 2 to a roundtable discussion that we started earlier this month. It is with the Janine McElveen, who's the superintendent of the Petrified Forest, as well as the hospitality businesses. We want to open this up to all tourism and hospitality business owners to come and attend this. The last one we felt was very productive, and we had so much to talk about, we decided to do a part 2. As a result of that meeting, we just learned that the park is actually going to not close later, because right now they're closing at 5, but they're not going to make visitors leave until 6:30. So they actually, if you get there a little late in the afternoon, they're gonna allow them to stay longer. So this was, I think, a very positive thing that came about with this part 1. Part 2, we're going to be looking at off seasons and talk about, how we can promote the Petrified Forest and how they can work with our community to support our businesses and develop some more strategies so that we can stay busier longer. We're also going to be looking at an ambassador program that we can work together with the Petrified Forest, with the Holbrook Foundation and NPC. So those are some of the things we'll be talking about, so you're all welcome to attend. That's April 28th from 3 to 4 at the old courthouse in the auditorium.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. We have no other calls to the public for items not on the agenda. Moving on, we'll move on to current, summary of current events. I guess I get to go first. Again, I want to thank everybody. A lot of them have left, but those that have decided to stay, I really appreciate you folks coming in. This is what helps change and make the community better. Though maybe some of our decisions aren't aligned with what you like, this is the way the democratic purpose works, or the process works, but it's not going to work without you, and I appreciate every one of you that came in and spoke this evening. Moving on to this weekend, a lot of you noticed that the fairgrounds was a hopping place. They had the junior high and the high school rodeo. This is the first time that the fairgrounds has been able to host this. I know Rusty Despain has been pushing to get this event here for quite some time. This year he was able to, and the feedback that I've heard from a lot of the people at the fair board and people in the community, that they enjoyed this place out of all the other places they've been. They felt they were more hospitable here, and they're already wanting to come back for their next cycle. The scary thing about it is their next cycle is the week after the fair. So that being said, if you know anybody or any of you would like to volunteer to help, because it is going to be a very busy month when they do that. If in fact, I'm pretty sure they're gonna have them back. But if any of you know of people, or if you would like to volunteer, I would encourage you to get a hold of Mike Sample, or encourage you to get a hold of Rusty Despain, and see what they need as far as help. I bet everybody that can go over help them do even small stuff would be greatly appreciated. Okay, other than that, I don't have anything else. We'll move on to council members. Councilman Dixon.
I don't have anything, Mayor, thank you.
Councilman Nielsen.
There's several things. First of all, I'd like to thank the Reeds and all they're doing to put Little League back on it's back in swing, and after a year of no baseball, they're really doing a tremendous job. Got a lot of kids signed up, and I'd also like to shout out to Kim Belknap and the work he's doing with his volunteers at making our golf course better. That's tremendous. High school is also getting back to normal. Prom is this Saturday, and graduation will be, I think, 8 tickets for every graduate, and it's getting back to normal, which is a really good thing. I attended the NACOG meeting this morning from 10 until Noon and Flagstaff. And it should be of great interest to us that our grant for our Sun Valley Water project was approved unanimously today. And I also wanted to point out that there's going to be grants, there's excess money right now through NACOG for grants for infrastructure and transportation funds. And I was thinking, as Kim was talking, that road that goes up to the golf course, wow, if we could get a grant for that, if we could get a grant to put a sidewalk from the neighborhood on the hill to the LDS church, and maybe also pave from the LDS church to Tractor Supply up that road. What a great thing that would be. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Vice Mayor Payne?
I echo your comments on the fairgrounds this weekend. They had like 500 kids participating, and it went well, and they were very happy. In fact, I believe they wanted to open the season here, and they want another date. So Fair Board's done a great job of creating uses for that property there, and we all benefit from it. In conversation with, probably shouldn't do this, she's right here to I guess you can defend herself. In conversations with Cindy Tafoya, she noted that the chamber is interested in tracking those events and talking to the businesses afterwards to see what the actual impact is. That would be enormously helpful to us and to the businesses, I think. We also should probably do a little bit better job of getting the word out of it, because there were a lot of people who didn't know what was going on down there. But you can bet if you get a crowd that size, probably the canteen is open, so a lot of people, I'm sure, stop by just for some of Jose's green chili and found out what was going on. But I encourage you, when there is a big thing going on, go down there, have lunch, see what's happening. And I congratulate the Fair Board on keeping with us until they could nail it down. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilman?
Well, my roommate told me that the Friends of the Holbrook Animal Shelter was successful in getting a grant from a Safeway organization. When you punch your number in, they said, do you want to donate to local? So now they're eligible to partake in some of those funds. So that's good news. I want to thank the city for helping them grade the play yard back there. If you haven't been up to the animal shelter, it looks a lot different. They're putting compartmentalized play yards for volunteers and adoption events and things like that. So thanks to the city, and thanks of course to the very small group of the Friends group that work very closely with Animal Control Officer and for all they do to get those dogs and cats and turtles and owls and all kinds of crazy things out and about and into happy homes or back to their owners. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Wolford?
Yeah, just concur. Thanks everybody for coming out, participating in this democracy. Kudos out again, the county fair. A lot of people out again this weekend. I know that Michael Sample gave us a nice calendar of events and a lot of stuff happening there at the fairgrounds throughout the year. So whatever we can do to support them is to our benefit. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Kester?
Well, did you just call me?
Yes, sir. Closing remarks for you, sir.
Yes. I heard somebody coughed, and it's unbelievable how loud it is through this phone service in my car. I'm sitting in my truck. I'm 250 miles away. This is probably the toughest meeting I've ever been to. Anyway, whoever is talking about that road, that's been my pet project for a long time. The one that goes from the Mormon church, the dirt road. And I know we're all working on trying to get it to where it's really better. I appreciate everybody uses it, and I'm having having a good time here with my family. Thank you.
Enjoy. Thank you, Councilman. Have a safe trip back. Okay, moving on to the city manager.
Okay, I attended the Hashtag Parade and swearing in ceremony. I want to thank everyone who made that event happen, a lot of volunteers, including city staff, and you know, we're really fortunate to have such a dedicated group. Those guys have been doing this for many years, and it's quite the event, something to be proud of. I mentioned getting ready for Memorial Day weekend. We have the splash pad has been repaired and is ready for opening. The batting box equipment has been repaired. The mini golf course carpet is on order, it hasn't come in yet, so we'll be getting that done. We just ordered a new hot water system for the pool. I had mentioned we have an efficient system that way to put in. The boiler went out, it's very old. That has just been ordered. We'll get that installed as soon as it comes in. Heward Park Dog Park will be closed for reseeding. They closed it down. They need several weeks to let that grass grow. And then finally, we do have on our list of things to do, Hunt and Liziski Park, the concession stands are scheduled for repair and painting. They're in kind of a state of disrepair. Mayor, Council, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Do we have any submissions of written petitions for items not on the agenda?
We do not.
Having none, moving on to item 10, adjournment. Chair will entertain a motion.
I so move.
Motion. Is it a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Big up for me.
Thanks, Earl. Have a good night.
Earl, stay on the line.
Moving on.
It's way
Just messing with you, Earl.
It's 11 o'clock out there.
Bye, Earl.
All right, see you guys. Hopefully be back shortly. Couple weeks.
And be safe.
The same crowd.
Always.
No.